It is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, and with me, as always, is my friend Pete.
What is up, Glenn? How you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. The sun is out, some snow is melting, the sky is blue. It seems like a lovely day out there.
Spring will show up sooner or later.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice.
But there's definitely some snow melt going on, so that's a plus.
Yeah. And I've been reflecting a little bit because my eldest daughter. Well, it's school vacation week next week, and my eldest daughter is joining a service trip to Guatemala to build a school and play with kids and have a whole experience with
I remember you telling me a little bit
20
about
other
that.
kids. So it's a moment of extreme pride and excitement and anticipation for me. But when I think about that and I reflect on sort of my path here as a dad, and I remember when she was a really little one, and you just had some good baby time. You had a 2-month-old in the house visiting recently.
Yep.
And so I was wondering if maybe we bring it back a bit and talk about, being a parent, being a dad, sort of. When you looked at that baby, did it trigger memories for you of Jack, Lily, and Mike? Do you remember new dad, Pete? And were you nervous? Or I was trying to take it back a bit. What's your recollection of that stuff?
Well, it's funny. I think I might have joked about this on an earlier pod that Lynn will bring up something that happened when one of our kids was young. And do you remember this? And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't remember that at all. But we'll be joking about the third quarter when it was Needham against Newton North, at Newton North, in a particular possession of the game. And Jack and I can recount it with great detail, which is kind of funny and is not altogether untrue. It's funny. I don't recall being nervous. It just seemed like we were ready. I mean, we had been married for 5 years, and it was a intentional. Let's have a child.
Yeah, part of the plan.
Part of the plan, and it was a lot of fun. Jack was our oldest, our first. So I'll bring him up first because he came first. Was a super happy baby. Always had a big smile on his face. It's funny. He had a stutter up until he was 3 or 4 years old. It was a noticeable.
Sure.
And we got a great bit of advice from Lynn's mother, which was, he'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
That is good advice.
Yeah. And just don't, because it wasn't that bad, but it was definitely a stutter. And she was like, just ignore it kind of thing. And I don't mean to, I think there are people with stutters where that's not the appropriate plan.
Sure.
But his was kind of mild and it was an early on lesson to not freak out about things with kids.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be helicopter parents. And he also had a thing where he had to wear a bib until he was 5 because he had overactive saliva,
Nice.
and just he was. I don't want to say he was drooling, but he was we had to put something on or his shirts would get soaked. He's probably not that happy about me saying it. It was not.
That's good.
But that was just another thing. He'll grow out of it.
Yeah, exactly. You can't sweat that stuff.
And Mike came out of the womb and was, from a very early age, was an engineer, building things, doing interesting stuff. Jack wanted to jump off. Set up a big bunch of pillows on the floor and jump off some high place and land on the pillows, which Mike would participate in. But Mike was always being the architect and the science guy.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, Jack wanted to play sports. Mike wanted to do experiments and make model rockets and, build he was early on in the whole drone thing. He was building drones out of kits. So two totally different kids. And Lily was a little bit of a hybrid, either between the two of them or between me and Lynn, however you want to look at it.
Sure.
And also a girl, and it's a little different, I think.
Definitely.
Fathers to daughters than fathers to sons.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that, and she was lovely and very happy, and did more traditional girl stuff, and also. You grew up with two older brothers. You don't take any crap from anybody.
Yeah.
So she was pretty tough.
Yes.
Um, But all three of them are distinctly their own person. And that was fascinating to me. I'm sure you found that with, I assume you found that with your two kids.
Absolutely. Like wondering, like, to what degree do I have any influence as to who do they become, or are they just fully like on their own path to be their own person? And my job is just to sort of support them. And like, it's interesting how
the
that
nature
goes.
nurture thing is an interesting one. And as far as I can tell, it's a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Or maybe a 65-35 nature to nurture.
Yeah. So less nurture influence than nature. That certainly tracks with my experience. So it sounds like you weren't super anxious and worried about the things. You had some good advice from Lynn's mom early on to help steer you through. I'm curious as far as like strictness and the rules and things like that. Now that they're adults and they've turned out, sort of seems to me like wonderful people. Were you too strict? Were you too lenient? Were you just right? Is there a rule you enforced back then that you look back on and laugh at now?
Well, the first thing that we started to realize recently is they've become, like in the last couple of years, they've been more forthcoming with some of the shenanigans they pulled off that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Mike had when Mike was a senior in high school, he had been dating a girl who was a year older than him, who went to a different high school, who when he was a senior, she was now a freshman in college, and she was at Emerson. And we had a Jeep Wrangler that was a 6-speed. So we learned that Mike could, or we were told a few years ago, Mike would roll the Jeep out of the driveway and push it down the road and jump start it. Because it was parked in the driveway. It wasn't parked in the garage. So we didn't have to open the garage door.
You didn't want to make all that noise. Yeah.
So that was pretty crafty of him. I think we were pretty laissez-faire. We're as strict as you could be about drinking and driving for sure, and I think that just generationally that isn't that hard of one to enforce, because I find that high school kids today are light years ahead of at least where we were in college when I was in high school.
Yeah, it seems to be the case for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Table manners, wear a hat at the dinner table. You got to use the fork and the knife correctly, and try to be a stickler for grammar, as you've heard in the previous pod.
Yes.
But in terms of, letting kids learn life lessons, we weren't super protective of them. You got to let them run around and stub their toe a little bit. So we kept them, safe, or as safe as we could, without being overbearing. And I think, our timing of when we lived in Switzerland was really perfect, because I think there is nothing better for little kids around sort of risk reward and having agency is to teach them how to ski at a young age. Because you're skiing, you control, how fast you're going, and, once they got to a certain, when they were,
it's like
sort
equal
of 7,
footing with the adults. Yeah.
Yeah, and when they were 7, we'd let them go ski wherever they want. Like they didn't have to be accompanied.
Yeah.
They were accomplished enough skiers. And then where we went in Switzerland was kind of the end of the road. Like the road ended.
Yeah.
In Arosa. So it was, it was safe in that regard. But kids skiing kind of learn,
Yeah.
you do something stupid, you're gonna
Pay a price.
you're
Yeah.
gonna fall down, and you're gonna get snow down your pants or whatever. Like
Right.
it's a pretty good metaphor for life in some ways.
Well, and yeah, like opportunities for independence and leeway. You're going up the lift by yourself or with your sibling or with your friend, and you're coming down and you're watching out for each other. So it's like there's guardrails there, but there's opportunities.
No screwing around on the chairlift. You got to put the bar down.
Yeah.
Like you got to use your brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My mantra always with them, it was mostly around driving, but it was also about other things, was, and they heard me say the phrase a million times, so if they listen to this, they'll roll their eyes a little bit, situational awareness. That's what I stressed.
Mm.
If you're driving in the car, situational awareness, like, what cars are around you, is
Yeah.
what lane are you in?
Who's coming up on
is
you?
there some
or who
guy
are you
2
coming
cars
up
ahead
on?
who's driving a little erratically?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see somebody in your rearview mirror who's coming up at a high rate of speed? Like, you got to be paying attention, which means you can't be yucking it up with anybody else in the car.
Yeah. And skiing,
And
you can make the same exact analogy. Yeah. You got to
But,
be aware.
if you're at a party, if you're out in a public place, be aware of what's going on around you
Yeah.
for your own safety and safety of others. And, I thought that was a pretty good, if I were going to teach them one thing, I thought that was a pretty good thing to teach them.
That's a good one. That's a good one. One thing I've been thinking a lot about is my kids are older, so 12 and 15. They're independent, and they get, influence and information and news from sources that I don't necessarily control. And, sometimes I think they justifiably have a sense of, I don't know if despair is the right word, but the situation, looking around and about our community, about our country, about our society, about technology and all this change that's coming. And I guess what advice do you have, either for parents or for young adults who maybe look around and feel that things are bad, or it's a really challenging, intimidating situation that feels like it's just getting worse?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, their intuition is probably reasonably accurate in some ways, given how our society is so bifurcated and, at odds. Each side's at odds with the other, I suppose, politically. We had the benefit of, our kids were born in, between 97 and 2002. So, there wasn't there was no iPhone and all these apps and news. So, like, it was a different,
Yeah.
Social media didn't exist.
Yeah.
Till
9/11 would be impactful, but they would be too little.
they were
maybe.
too young for 9/11. Yeah. When Lily wasn't even born. And Jack may have like a dim memory of 9/11 because he was 3, but they didn't have any of the influence of social media algorithms,
Yeah.
exploiting, the human tendencies to some of the behavioral finance stuff we talked about a couple of weeks ago also apply to social media manipulation.
Yeah. Tuned for our attention, just
Yeah.
and changing the attention spans of kids, I think, as a consequence.
Yeah, I mean, I even find that I get into a longer article on something, and I have to remind myself to actually read the article, right? We're so used to just reading a little snippet and then swipe into the next thing. I'm not sure I have a particularly good answer other than, we've always made a point of talking about, not always, but we talked about real things at the dinner table and, topics that were in the newspaper. And
and there was healthy debate sometimes.
certainly as they got older, there was more healthy debate, but they heard, they overheard discussions. And, didn't try to shield them from some of the world's realities, and then tried to talk about ethics and like morality at a political level.
Sure.
I think they're despite that, they get a lot of their information from Facebook and Instagram and
friends and
Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I'm finding that you can get good information and dialogue if you're, disciplined about what you're looking for. Kind of thing. It depends what kind of rabbit holes you go down as to what kind of rabbit holes they're going to feed you.
Yes.
So they know what's going on in the world, but it's not from the New York Times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I find myself hoping that there's some demonstrable, sign of a better trajectory, a better direction, than the one that they have sort of started to take steps into adulthood and find themselves surrounded by. So I'm waiting for some external event to happen isn't a great strategy on my part. But
I mean, listen, you think about kids that were, this is a little bit before both of us, but, in the late 60s, it didn't seem like things were going all that hot, right? We had the Vietnam War going on. You had race riots in, Detroit and other places. You had, Martin Luther King got assassinated. Robert F. Kennedy got assassinated.
True.
John Kennedy got assassinated.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a really rough.
There's some bad
time.
stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
In the Carter administration, there's the Iran hostage crisis, and this was before Carter, and you may not remember this. I remember you can only buy gasoline for your car if your license plate ended with an even number.
Right.
You could buy gasoline on even days, and vice versa.
Yeah, fuel rationing.
Not the same level of vitriol, and there was still some level of decorum.
Yeah.
Politically, but there were still reasons, I think, for kids to be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
I think it's more extreme. They're not. I think it's worse today.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's
definitely.
not completely unprecedented. And I'm naive, but I'm optimistic that a few years from now there'll be an election. Well, there'll be an election next November.
Yeah.
And hopefully that begins to, really turn the tide.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a little bit heartening. Something to hold on to there. If you could go back to the day, when it was new Dad Pete, knowing everything you know now, what would you whisper to yourself as with the wisdom that you've accrued over these years? Is there anything, or was old?
Yeah, it's probably
Pete
a couple of things. I think patience, and just more engagement. We had basically, Lynn has a master's degree in MBA. She's worked at Arthur Andersen and had a serious career going. But after we had Mike, my income had been growing enough that we were fortunate enough to be able to have just one person working, and so Lynn dropped out of the workforce. And so it was a more traditional household for many years until Lynn went back to work. And so I was focused on work, and Lynn was focused on, the household and getting the kids doing their thing.
Right.
And I probably did a little too much of the work thing and not enough of. And I don't know if my kids would say that, but that would be.
That's how you feel, yeah.
Yeah, it's the old adage of. Nobody ever dies and wishes they spent more time in the office, kind of thing.
Right.
Which maybe has a little more literalness to it. today. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Right. Right.
I think just sort of patience and kind of engagement that they spending time with them and on their level.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Jack was into sports, I was into sports. Like there were things that were easier for me and Jack to do with each other, and less easy for things for me to do with Lily or with Mike for that matter. And I would tell myself to go back and
Yeah.
make sure that
find connections. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
didn't try to make connections that were important to me,
Yeah.
and did make connections with them. I'm making it sound worse than it probably was.
Of course.
But
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, for me, that translates to, I mean, we only have 2 kids, not 3, but usually it's the 4 of us all together, or maybe one of us with the 2 kids. It's rare to have
just one of them.
rarer to have one-on-one time. And so
Yeah.
really relishing those times when you do and leaning into it is something I've found fulfilling and
Yeah.
helpful to me.
One thing that was good was, Jack went off to a year of prep school and then college, and so it was the 3 of them, then it was the 2 of them,
Yeah.
and then the gap between Lily and Mike, was like 4 years,
Yeah.
three and a half,
Right.
whatever, 3-ish
Almost.
years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so when Mike went off to college and we had Lily, it was just the 3 of us, and so that was cool.
Yeah.
And changes the
Dynamic.
just changes
Yeah.
the group dynamic just by definition.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be happening to me soon as my oldest starts
exactly.
thinking about college. Then we'll have that version of it.
You said at the beginning of this, you said, we're excited of all the things she's going to do
Yeah.
in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's some anxiety too. I mean, obviously it's a chaperone thing, but
Yeah.
the ratio of adults to kids, I'm sure is
It's like 20-6 or something. Not terrible,
Yeah.
but they're
So
outnumbered.
three or 4 to
and
1
she's,
kind of thing.
Flying internationally without us,
Yeah.
and it's like, hopefully it'll be fine.
Yeah, so
I
there's-
trust her so much that I'm not worried. But yeah, there's a little bit of that.
Well, and it's even if there's the highest level of trust,
Yeah.
things happen in the world. You know what I
there's
mean? That have
external
nothing to do.
factors, yeah.
Like she doesn't necessarily have to make a bad decision. It's just
Yeah.
it's scary to. And this is really probably the first time. I mean, maybe they went to summer camp or something, but that's different.
Yeah.
This is going out in the real world. Doing real
Independent adventure. kind of
independent
thing,
things,
yeah.
but it's social service things for folks who are far less economically stable and where they are
Yeah.
in their country
Yeah.
than we are in our country.
Yeah. I'm
So
sure
she's gonna see things she hasn't seen before.
eye-opening. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's going to be great. We're
Yeah,
all
no,
proud
it's,
and looking forward to it. So yeah.
So
it's
that's
gonna be,
next week.
Yeah, that's next week, and so it's school vacation week. So it'll be my wife and I and my son. And ordinarily we would travel somewhere as a family. So we're gonna improvise
Yeah.
a little bit next week, but we're still gonna have a nice time.
And where can you fly to Guatemala directly, or you have to go to JFK?
It's through
or
Panama
something?
City. Through
From Boston or from
Boston to Panama City
yeah,
to
okay.
and there's a long layover, but there'll be a big gaggle. It's
Yeah, that'll be fine.
yeah, that'll be great. Well, this has been great, Pete. Thank you for taking the time today. I've enjoyed turning back the clock a little bit, thinking about from the real little ones to the about to take flight independently, and then what happens afterwards, and seeing them turn into these adults. It's a great gift. So I'm grateful. That's one thing that you and I share.
Well, the listeners don't know this, but I was in bed as of like I don't know, 9:45 or so,
Yeah.
and at 10:30 I sent a little trial balloon over the text message transom, seeing if I could weasel my way out of today's podcast.
Yeah.
And you said, well, actually, I got a topic. I'm like, ah. So I dragged my ass out of bed to get here, but it was well worth it.
I love to hear that. Pete.
All
right, brother.
All right, till next week.
Yeah. Love you, buddy.
All right, love you too. Thanks a lot.
All right. If you have comments or questions for Pete and me, you can email us at 2224peter@gmail.com. If you'd like to get involved with or donate to ALS causes, check out ALS One at alsone.org. Thank you for listening.